Just bow our heads again in prayer. Father, we thank you for all the good things you've given us. You've guided us towards eating foods that are so tasty, but sometimes we get in a rush and don't appreciate what you've given us. So we thank you for this class that's encouraged us to look at the beautiful things you've given us and make them a part of our meals. We thank you for the exercise, the pure water that reminds us of Jesus. And we thank you for that we can be out in the sunshine sometimes. And we just pray that as we meet together tonight, that you will meet here with us and strengthen our resolves, help us that we may move towards making choices that will be a benefit to our health and remove the stress from our life, or at least help us in dealing with it. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Tonight we have a multimedia presentation by Vicki. And I think you'll really, this was the first thing I saw when I was getting ready for this seminar, and I just thought it was so good. So I hope that you'll enjoy it. It summarizes the important connection between diet and stress. And then we're going to discuss nature's first line of defense. You know, they started talking about that in the grocery store Tuesday night, and they're going to talk about the first line of defense.
Society today, how can you protect? Today we're talking about diet and stress. Is what you're eating you? There's plenty of stress going around in society today. How can you protect yourself against the ravages of stress? Is there a way to build a nutrition foundation so that when stress hits, when it comes unexpectedly at you, that you have better power to cope with stress, less stress system damage, and the stress system activity won't last as long? These are the questions we want to look at today as we examine the question, diet and stress, is what you're eating you? I became interested in this subject one day when I was at an overworked, overweight oncology nurse's office, and I saw a caricature on her refrigerator, and it said, "It's break time. I have one nerve left, and you are about to get on it." Now, she did have a stressful job, it's true, but as I looked at her lifestyle, I noticed her trash can just overflowing with liter soda pop bottles, fast food containers, and junk food, cookies and candy wrappers. I wondered if there was a relationship between her irritability and her fatigue and her inability to cope with just the smallest challenges at work and in the home. And I began to investigate this subject, and it is one that is well worth investigating, because Time magazine and other news media outlets are reflecting societal concern over this issue. As a matter of fact, this recent issue of Time magazine says, "Understanding anxiety. Now we are worrying ourselves more than ever." How can we protect ourselves against the ravages of stress? There's so much that happens in our society that we have no control over, but there's a lot that we can control. There are choices that we can make to boost immune system, lower stress system activity, and lower risk for depression, to have more brain stuff to fight the battles that we have and the challenges every day of our lives, because those are not going to go away. In 1996, 26% of adults felt that they were having an impending nervous breakdown. One Princeton University survey stated that 2/3 of Americans surveyed stated that they felt stressed out at least once a week. In fact, antidepressant consumption is up 56% from 1993, particularly the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, such as the Prozac type medications. And this is trickling down to the younger set as well. 23% of teens suffering serious depression before the age of 20. So clearly, the problem of the ravages of stress, and I would add inordinate lifestyle that contributes to stress sensitivity, are ravaging every age, every strata of our society, and it also is in the news. Newsweek magazine, 3 million teens suffering from severe, debilitating depression. What can we do about it? What steps can we take every day to reduce the stress that these kids are under, not only environmentally, but what lifestyle measures are available to you and to me to increase our ability to cope with the unknown and with the challenges that are out there. 20 million adults experience clinical depression every single year, resulting in 200 million lost workdays. As a matter of fact, stress and depression-related work loss is more expensive than even obesity and diabetes-related illnesses on the job. This costs an annual amount of $600 per depressed worker. And anxiety does change the brain. These things do become chronic. A little bit of stress is a good thing. Stress charges our system. We have quick-acting stress hormones such as adrenaline. We have the slower-acting cortisol. These hormones are important to give us the energy for the day. They quicken our memory, get us ready for novelty situations. But when stress is chronic and unremitting from whatever the source, it can be very damaging and cause some very serious health crises. And the cost of stress is high. It costs $43.4 billion a year. We spend $7.5 billion a year on suicide. $8.3 billion a year in inpatient care, just related to stress and depression on the job. 2.9, almost $3 billion a year spent just in outpatient care. Drugs cost more than $1 billion a year just for stress and depression. Absenteeism on the job, $11 billion a year. And loss in productivity, almost 30%. 27% of that figure goes just toward lost productivity, $12 billion a year. And as I said, all this tension is trickling down to the younger set as well. 20% of United States children suffer from psychiatric disorders. 1 of every 8 little Midwestern boys on Ritalin. Child use of antidepressants went up in a 4-year period 200%. And there's been a 3-fold increase of Ritalin use in 2 to 4-year-olds in Midwestern states. So clearly we see a trend. And where we see these sorts of societal trends toward increased stress, chronic depression, increased poor health outcomes as a result, we must take a look at foundational principles of nutrition and lifestyle and say, where are we missing in this area? What can we do to shore up and to gain strength? How stressed are you? If you were to rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, where would you put yourself? With 1 being low and never in a hurry, and with 10 being over the top, you're a powder keg ready to break. I've only met one person that was a 1. I actually think he was a 0. We lived in North Carolina for 9 years up in the mountains, and all of this, the activity of that little community took place at the local dump. That's where people met to visit. That's where the local sheriff campaigned for office, and so everyone met at the dump. Well, one day I was taking my trash to the dump and I was blocking the entrance. I didn't realize it. A friend of mine was going out the other way, and we stopped our cars and talked for about 10 minutes, and unbeknownst to me, there was a truck behind me waiting to get into the dump. And he just quietly turned his engine off and waited for me to finish my conversation. Well, when I left, I noticed that he started up his engine and came right on in, and I felt so terrible. I circled back around to apologize to this man for blocking the entrance for him to get into the dump for 10 minutes. So I went up to him and I said, "Sir, I'm just so very sorry that I blocked your entrance to the dump for 10 minutes. And he was in an old jalopy. He was chewing on a piece of straw. And he said, "Lady, I ain't never in a hurry," especially when the women folk get to talking. And I really laughed to myself, and I thought, you know, who knows what that man eats, but he's probably going to live to be 100. And so there are so many elements involved in chronic stress, and certainly attitude is one of them. But diet is important, and we are going to be taking a look at that link today, and it is a fascinating one. Well, what exactly is stress? Stress is a term that has been borrowed from the field of engineering, by the psychological sciences, and it's been defined as disequilibrium or threatened homeostasis. Probably an easier way to remember it is the sum total of our responses to various stressors. Well, what is a stressor? It is something that causes stress, and it comes in a variety of flavors. It can be emotional in its origin, it can be chemical, it can be physical, it can be environmental, symbolic, or even spiritual. Let's look at some examples. What would an example be that you can think of an emotional stressor? Why, certainly we can think of the loss of a loved one, a divorce, frequent job changes, or being out of a job. These can be sources of emotional stress. Sometimes we carry around bad memories or problems that are unresolved, and these certainly do stress the entire nervous system. A stressor can be chemical. One woman that was looking at this picture, she thought, as I asked the question, she thought that this picture was pinto beans, and I certainly have never thought of pinto beans as a source of chemical stress, but these are actually coffee beans. And I would definitely consider caffeine a chemical stressor, or large amounts of sugar. One of those large 64-ounce sodas contains 135 grams of fructose. You would have to consume 33 peaches in one sitting to get the amount of fructose in one of those drinks. Do you think that much sugar in one sitting could be a stressor to the system in a chemical way? Caffeine, as we mentioned, and drugs. What about physical stressors? This is where the picture gets interesting. A stressor that is physical can be local and specific, such as a broken bone, or it can be general and non-specific, such as a fever or an autoimmune disease. And so when we harbor chronic stress, when we're under chronic pressure and stress from whatever the source, it can begin to take a toll on our genetic liabilities, whether that liability is heart disease or diabetes or cancer or arthritis or some other autoimmune disorder, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. A stressor can be environmental. Studies with lab animals have shown that pollution, too much noise, and excessive crowding are a stressor to the nervous system when we are in those types of situations on a chronic level. Spiritual stressors are just as real as physical stressors. Harboring guilt over wrongdoing, a sense of neglected duty, harboring anger or grudges. It has been said that the vessel that holds anger and grudges is destroyed. And that is true. And that destruction comes through this overactivity of the nervous system, the constant mental torment that occurs when we have an unforgiving attitude or guilt that is unresolved. And it attacks every system of the body, including the heart, the blood vessels, muscles. These are the target organs for stress. Glands, the brain, and overall, the nervous system can become dysregulated. And it causes chronic chaos in several different ways. There are a number of different avenues that chronic stress can take. One is hyperactivity of the stress system. Hyperactivity of stress system function can result in immune dysfunction. And by the way, this information is more fully discussed in your book, Simple Solutions. So hyperactivity of the stress system can be manifest in immune dysfunction, high blood pressure, insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome, abdominal obesity. There is a relationship between elevated levels of the slow-acting hormone cortisol and abdominal obesity. But on the other hand, some people, their stress system activity begins to behave like an alternator that is burned out, and they actually start to underproduce stress hormones. Hypoactivity or underactivity of the stress system is associated with specific types of obesity, such as low serotonin obesity, hypothyroidism, underactive thyroid, and increased vulnerability to inflammatory or autoimmune diseases. Let's take a look now at nutrition and stress. According to Philip Rice from Morehead State University, eating right is just as important as managing stress. Why? Because vulnerability to stress increases with a poor diet. So what this is saying is that how vulnerable you are to those stressors that you cannot do anything about is going to increase. Your sensitivity to your environment is going to increase when your nutrition is poor. You are not going to be as well equipped to perceive your world in a calmer way. When a stress event does occur, it's going to last longer, it's going to do more damage, and it's going to feel worse. What about nerves and nutrition? Melvin Werback from UCLA says this: it is clear that nutrition can powerfully influence cognition, emotion, and behavior. I remember asking in one audience, what is cognition? And a woman said, well, is it something like your ignition? Well, it really is, because your brain is the starter. It's the starting place for your behavior and for your actions and for your thoughts. Nutrition affects the way we think. A faulty diet, according to stress medicine, can be a source of stress. Not only is it a source of stress, stress can lead to poor dietary habits. And it has been demonstrated that even laboratory animals, when chronically stressed, crave sweets. And so we are no different, but we're more intelligent than lab rats, and we can do a better job in bolstering our immune system and breaking those cravings, even when we are having challenges, than animals that don't have reasoning powers. The effects of chronic stress may be exacerbated by a rich diet. In a person who is experiencing chronic stress, when they have a diet that is loaded with chips and chops and burgers and fries and shakes, their baseline or their levels of cortisol at the calmest state are actually going to be elevated. This means that they are going to be more prone to form triglycerides and deposit mid-body fat, and so there is this entire metabolic shift that occurs on a high-fat feeding regimen that exaggerates the stress response, exaggerates inflammation, exaggerates the entire disease process, especially metabolic syndrome and diabetes, that type of thing. According to Mark McKinney from the Department of Prevention and Stress Medicine, the people producing the greatest stress hormones and theoretically depleting their vitamin stores to the largest degree are typically the ones who compensate the most poorly through dietary intake, and it does create a vicious cycle. Diets that are high in simple sugars, high in processed refined foods, the cakes and the cookies and the refined boxed foods, high in saturated animal fats filling up on pizzas and burgers, high in hydrogenated or artificially solidified fats, the vegetable fats and animal fats, and then throttling up energy levels artificially through the use of caffeine or trying to feel better with alcohol. This causes a vicious stress cycle. And here's how it works. When we don't take in the nutrition that we need, your body needs to use its nutrient stores in order to metabolize those foods and to try to keep the cellular activities at healthy, normal levels. This actually causes a stress reaction in the body because levels of good nutrients are low. It increases stress response and further drains reserves, creating a vicious stress cycle. This results in brain drain. It is a well-established fact that virtually any nutrient deficiency can result in impaired function, especially mental function. Well, what about supplements? Maybe we should just keep eating all that junk food and just go out and buy very large doses of vitamins and minerals, get some phytochemicals and antioxidants in a bottle. But potentially this can be a problem because people are taking drug-like doses of nutrients, but they're not getting them in the right ratios. The most wonderful ratios for nutrients are in nature's package. The fresh fruits, the grains, the whole grains, the vegetables, the beans, the nuts, the legumes and seeds. Taking large amounts of supplements can cause potential problems. They can be not only ineffective, the toilets are filled with vitamins and minerals that are just flushed down the drain, and sometimes we take these supplements in toxic amounts. If you If you are taking a supplement, the safest recommendation is to take 100% of the daily values. And there are some supplements that can be quite valuable under certain circumstances. Vegetarians and vegans need to have B12 supplementation in the diet. The elderly need to pay attention to B12. People who live in northern climates need to pay attention to vitamin D levels. There may be specific situations where certain amounts of supplements or certain types of supplements may be in order, but it is very easy to cross the line from nutrition into pharmacology, and that is a potentially toxic situation. For instance, certain nutrients can interfere with other nutrients. A good example of this would be people that take large amounts of zinc. It can interfere with copper absorption because copper and zinc compete for receptor sites. And certain nutrients taken in large amounts under certain conditions can actually promote cancer, such as vitamin A in smokers. And all of this can increase stress system activity. The dosing can be unreliable, and there are issues of contamination. You don't always know what you're taking. It is costly to take large amounts of supplements, and it's hard on the liver. The most perfect source of balanced nutrition always has been and always will be nature's garden. As a principle, adding a relative excess of any nutrient, whether vitamin, amino acid, or intact protein, when others are deficient, can actually exacerbate other deficiencies. This is a study that was done some time ago, which demonstrated that adding large amounts of protein supplementation to a very malnourished population of children actually exacerbated a vitamin A deficiency that was pre-existing and was causing a specific type of blindness in the children. Now, that was years ago, and now these kinds of relationships are carefully considered as we package foods for impoverished nations. But we need to be just as careful in this country and not to be so cavalier about taking large amounts of nutrients and supplements without paying attention to the relationships between nutrients, the nutrient-nutrient interactions that exist. Here is the real Department of Defense. It's not in the drugstore. The real Department of Defense is found in the grocery store. This is where you're going to get your stress-protective nutrition, and fresh is best. Some people do require supplements, but it's not recommended for the general population under all circumstances, especially taking huge amounts. Eating a wide variety of foods is always going to be the best way to obtain the essential nutrients. And here's the important principle when it comes to nutrition. Nutrition really is a three-legged stool. It's not just about intake, it's about absorption. How effectively are you absorbing what you are consuming? For instance, a very high saturated fat diet is going to interfere with calcium absorption. So you may be taking pockets full of calcium, but inordinate amounts of another nutrient may be interfering with absorption or the utilization of that nutrient. Very large amounts of calcium can interfere with the utilization of magnesium in the body. And finally, retention. For instance, taking caffeine can interfere with calcium retention. And so nutrition is a three-legged stool. What we want for you is to be able to optimize absorption, optimize utilization, and optimize retention of nutrients. And that is the best scenario for building immune health and lowering stress system activity. We can begin to do this by building healthy breakfasts. Building a better breakfast is very simple to do in 3 easy steps. You want to fiber up with good, wholesome, high-fiber grains. Whole grain foods, such as the whole wheat bread that you see here, or an oatmeal or whole grain cereal. Make sure that your bread has at least 2 grams of fiber per slice, and when you get high fiber foods that are rich in dietary fiber, you're going to get a whole cache of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytochemicals in the right ratios to maximize absorption, utilization, and retention. Also, you can enjoy your cereals. Make sure they have at least 3 to 5 grams of fiber per serving. Enjoy some mixed nuts at breakfast time, the baked kind or raw. We love to get walnuts for those healthy fatty acids, and fresh fruit. 3 easy steps for a healthy, brain-boosting, stress system-lowering breakfast. And here it is. Here's a picture of it. And look at that luscious lunch. It's colorful, it's full of variety, it has the very beautiful green leafy vegetables that are going to be rich in the right ratios of calcium and magnesium that are going to maximize absorption. Magnesium is a major anti-stress mineral. It is required for more than 350 enzyme functions. Your body produces its weight in ATP molecules every day, and magnesium and several different B vitamins are required for that process. And so you want to have a diet that is very rich in magnesium and B vitamins. You're going to find the magnesium in your leafy green vegetables such as collards and kale and broccoli. You're going to find magnesium in beans and corn and whole grains. You're going to enjoy those healthy fatty acids such as you see here in this picture of the olives and the avocados. We have lycopene-rich tomatoes here. This is much better than a pizza or a burger. And here we have a beautiful supper. This is a lentil soup, 15 grams of fiber in this lentil soup, full of folic acid and the minerals that are going to help to fight stress and keep tension levels down. It's a sumptuous supper. This is an amazing statement here from the Annals of the New York Academy of Science. A person who eats green or yellow vegetables every day. Can you think of some green and yellow vegetables that you love? Do you love to have spring mix salads with nice red and green and yellow bell peppers? Do you love cantaloupe? A person who eats green or yellow vegetables every day shows a lower incidence of stress syndrome. This is because of the carotenoids that are in these foods. As a matter of fact, there are more than 500 carotenoids in the plant kingdom. There are more carotenoids than are available just in carrots. There are many, many different types. And when we have high serum levels of carotenoids, it actually reduces stress syndrome. And they describe that as irritation and sleeplessness than one who does not eat them every day. So here we see very tangible effects of a shift in a dietary pattern away from junk food toward the fresh fruits and vegetables that is going to have a direct impact on stress system activity and nervous system irritability. And doesn't that look beautiful? Eat 3 to 5 servings a day of fresh vegetables. Just a half a cup of berries every day is going to give you 5 grams of nutrient-packed fiber. And listen to this statement by Dr. Stephen Schoenthaler from the University of Turlock. In California, he runs the Criminal Justice Department there, and he has done numerous studies on the effect of nutrient deprivation or vitamin and mineral deprivation on criminal behavior. And he says this: poor nutritional habits in children lead to low concentrations of water-soluble vitamins in blood, impair brain function, and consequently or subsequently cause violence and other serious antisocial behavior. And so dietary trends can create hyperexcitability, low impulse control, not only associated with poor dietary fat intake, poor quality fats, but also with low vitamin and mineral intake. And taking a multivitamin, a chewable, a daily chewable might be a good protective thing for children and for adults, just with 100% of the daily values, making sure that they're getting their baseline nutrition. But the first line of defense is always going to be the nutrition that you find at the grocery store. It has all of the components needed to feed the cells, to feed the bodies, and to produce the substances that are going to help give you the boost every day that you need for mental and physical health. And here we have fresh fruits loaded with antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. Look at these lovely foods, the granolas, the oats, a great source of soluble fiber, which is going to help to lower cholesterol, improve satiety, and help regulate blood sugar. This is a very interesting study published in the International Journal of Food Science and Nutrition. Those who consume breakfast cereal every day reported better mental as well as physical health than those who consumed it less frequently. So yes, being a breakfast skipper is going to increase your stress system activity. Having a good whole grain breakfast in the morning is going to get you started in the day so that you'll solve problems better, and it will help your mental engine to purr instead of ping. Here's a beautiful whole grain bread. This is a lovely bean hummus. We really promote the soluble as well as the insoluble fiber foods for satiety, gut health, lowering cholesterol. Diets which increase the total fiber intake by increasing not only the intake of legumes but also whole grains, vegetables, and fruits and nuts and seeds are effective in reducing cardiovascular risk factors. Just a little handful of those mixed nuts every day can reduce your heart attack risk by 50%. And what's good for the heart is good for the head. What's good for the head is good for the stress system. Aren't you glad you don't need 3 different diets to maintain health in 3 different areas of your life? And it's good to mix those grains with beans and legumes in order to create the complementary protein profile so that you'll have the best protein mix possible. And remember to have those healthy fats. F-A-T is not spelled B-A-D. According to Joseph Hibel, there is substantial evidence that major depression is associated with alterations in omega-3 fatty acid status. This is an amazing study which shows that our dietary fat intake is going to influence how flexible our cells are. Cell walls are made up of fats, and a lot of that is the dietary fat that we consume. And so if you have hard, stiff dietary fats, such as the saturated animal fats and the hydrogenated trans fats, the hardened vegetable fats, this is going to have an effect on the structure of those cell walls. And so when you switch out and have the healthier fats, there's a linear relationship between lower levels of depression, impulsivity, better cell flexibility, better intercellular communication. And so nutrition is just one factor, but it's an important factor in the nourishment of the nervous system and achieving better mental and physical function. And be sure and enjoy plenty of water every day. Fresh water is important to juice the system, carry oxygen to the cells, remove toxins. Get plenty of exercise. Just a 10-minute walk every day can improve mood for 1 hour. It's a very important component of a balanced life. Getting your sleep is actually going to help to control stress hormone levels the next day, cortisol levels, and insulin regulation. Very important. It's hard to control mood or handle stress without exercise and sleep. And remember this, pare down or you will wear down. Good sometimes is the enemy of best. We've got to pick out the most important priorities and center the rest of our lives around that. And we must trust our Heavenly Father with the things that we cannot solve or fix. We need to learn the difference. Remember, nature is a stern creditor. What we sow in disobedience to her laws, we will reap in disability, disease, depression, dementia, and even death. The question is, are you in the stress pit? Sure, there are things in our lives we have no control over, but when you build a healthy body and a healthy immune system with good diet, you will be able to beat the ravages of stress largely in your own life. You will be able to discern better how to solve those stressors that you have no control over. You'll be able to meet the challenges of life in a healthier, better way. Are you in the stress pit? The Bible says that if you dig a hole, you're going to fall into it. And what we eat has a direct bearing upon how well we handle stress and how well our bodies can manage in a stressful situation. If you dig a pit, you will fall into it. And I believe that it's time to get out. Remember, it's your choice. Nutrition and lifestyle choices do lower stress.
Good evening. The nutrition section tonight is going to be on phytochemicals. And some of the slides will show beautiful photomicrographs of chemicals produced by plants. So it's not just what we see on the outside. There is some beauty inside that we don't see, so we're going to show you a few of them. And there are tens of thousands of phytochemicals, and we're just going to briefly go look at a few of them. Phytochemicals are not vitamins or minerals, but chemicals that are found in plants. Phyto is the Greek word for plant. There are many families of phytochemicals, and they help the body in a variety of ways. Though the mechanism is not completely clear, phytochemicals' actions may protect us from a host of diseases. Some of these beneficial chemicals block various hormone actions and metabolic pathways that are associated with the development of cancer and heart disease, and other chemicals stimulate protective enzymes. So our first phytochemical is ajoine. Look at the beauty that nature has in the patterns.
What do you find it in? Oh, okay.
You're going to eat your garlic. It's good for you. Ajoine is a naturally occurring nutraceutical that might reduce the risk of stroke and heart disease. Onions and garlic also have disulfides, trisulfides, with a potential health benefit to reduce risk of cancer, and it also acts as an antimicrobial. Butyl phthalate is the distinctive taste and smell of celery, but also offers protection against cancer, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol levels. No wonder the ancient Greeks gave stalks of celery as trophies to their athletes. Ellagic acid. This is a natural pesticide in many fruit plants, such as your strawberries, raspberries, and this phytochemical fights cancer in humans. They're like those beautiful colors. Look at the beautiful colors in that one. Genistein. It's found in our soy products. Genistein is an isoflavone, a derivative that is proving to be a strong inhibitor of cancer and may be useful in the creation of new anti-cancer drugs. Indole. This amazes me at all the different patterns that they're in nature. This is found throughout nature. This aromatic nitrogen heterocycle assumes the form of a potent cancer fighter in the vegetables everybody loves to hate, like your broccoli, your Brussels sprouts, and your cabbage. And we have lutein. Lutein is one of 600 naturally occurring fat-soluble antioxidant carotenoid biochemicals that are found in your green leafy vegetables, such as spinach, kale, collard greens, romaine lettuce, leeks, and peas. And they can protect against age-related macular degeneration, which is the leading cause of blindness in people over 65. And here we have lycopene. Animals, including human beings, are completely dependent upon plants for this reddish phytochemical, the natural pigment. Deposited in a number of body tissues, lycopene protects against heart disease, certain cancers, and a multitude of other disorders. Now here we have a rainbow of fruits. Rainbow foods for good health. And we're going to show you some of the fruits and vegetables that you can find in different colors. Here we have the red ones. We got raspberries and strawberries, cherries, red potatoes, tomatoes, and watermelon. Phytochemicals provide color, flavor, and texture to your plant foods. They protect against degenerative diseases, reduce inflammation, fight cancer, enhance protective effects of other plant compounds, and boost the immune system. God, who created you and knows your body's needs, placed all the right nutrients and compounds in foods, and He placed them in the right proportions for your good. Make sure you eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables to get all the possible health benefits from phytochemicals. Plant foods are powerful foods to boost your immune system and help you deal with stress. Nutrients work best when all their partners are present. We're going to have you turn to page 114 in your books. And you have, excuse me, you have to read across the 2 pages. So we're going to go through this. That's page 114 and 115. More bounce by the ounce. When you choose food from nature, you get more nutrients, more vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytochemicals. You get more quantity, more food to eat with fewer calories, more fiber and satiety. You have a fuller and more satisfied feeling. More color, beauty on the plate. More flavor, tantalizing taste from fresh, succulent fruits and crunchy veggies. More variety, abundance of variety in the produce department. More balance, a balance of nutrients that are naturally low in calories. More energy, complex carbohydrates for optimal energy. Just ask the athletes. More productivity, a brain that works more efficiently. More beauty, clear skin, bright eyes, and a slowdown of the aging process. We all want that, don't we? And you'll have more confidence to know you are doing the right thing. Get more bounce by the ounce. You deserve it. On your tables, there's a handout tonight that contains 17 stress savers. I'll just go over a couple of them, and this is, you can take home and make sure that you read this on a regular basis to make sure that you're keeping on track. She talked earlier about water, cool, clear water. Enjoy at least 8 cups of water a day. Enjoy eating your meals at scheduled times. Get enough rest, sleep, and relaxation. This is a good one. Nourish your relationships. People who have close friends are healthier and happier. Live one day at a time. Don't borrow tomorrow's troubles. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. If you do this, you'll experience God's peace, which is far more wonderful than the human mind can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus.
We want to thank you for being a part of this seminar this year, and don't forget we do have some more cookbooks, and they make good gifts and will help our seminars keep going, so feel free to buy some of those. I'm not sure when our next seminar will be, but we can let you know, and we've given you, or we are going to give you a handout tonight to find out some other seminars that you might be interested in. So if you would just fill that out and hand it back to us, we'd really appreciate that. This will help us decide what you think are the most important seminars that we could offer here at the church. We want to offer these as a service to people, so We will be offering this seminar again, like we said, so if you know someone who might be interested in this seminar, we are going to have it again, and we'll let you know. Also, we have an evaluation, a program evaluation of this program, and we'd like you to fill that out. That will help us make it better. So please fill out the questions, and any concerns that you have about the seminar, we'd like to hear about it. And we'd like to invite you to continue learning along with us. Our assignments will be to just keep on trying to find out the best ways of eating these natural foods and reducing the stress in our lives. So your homework is going to be how do we implement all of this? And we are going to have another discussion group tonight, so we'll finish with that and hope that the next time we meet together, we'll have more things to share. Thank you so much for being here.